Good morning. Welcome to Rogers and welcome to the 2025 Ag Media Summit. Thank you for waking up bright and early, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. It's truly an honor to have you here, and on behalf of my peers, we aim to deliver on the promise of providing exceptional networking combined with powerful professional development over the next 2 to 3 days. Our goal was to build a program that allows you to sharpen your skills, identify new tools and technologies to put into practice, and gain a better understanding of the issues facing our industry. Now, regretfully, I'm standing here instead of Sheila Grabowski, who served as chair of this year's Ag Media Summit Steering Committee and is president of the Livestock Publications Council. Due to a family emergency, she is unable to be here, but sends her best wishes to everyone for a successful conference. My name is Julie Deering, and I served alongside Sheila as co-chair and as program chair. Ag Media Summit began in 1999 and is the largest gathering of the agriculture industry's top writers, editors, photographers, publishers, and strategic communicators in the U.S. Now, in its 26th year, this meeting's success has been driven by a labor of love shared by many through the years. The collaboration across the Livestock Publications Council, the Ag Communicators Network, and Ag Media Council provides a unique opportunity for us to gather together to learn, share, and collaborate across companies, organizations, and industry sectors. Let me say that executing an event such as this is no easy feat, but it's been a privilege to work alongside the entire steering committee and many volunteers. So, I'd like to take a moment to thank the following individuals. If you are in the room, please stand up. Representing the Livestock Publications Council are Sheila Grabowski, Biozyme, Autumn Furman of Arkansas Cattlemen's Association, Shelby Dime, American Shorthorn Association, Stacy Fox, Executive Director. Representing the Ag Communicators Network are Willie Vogt, freelance writer and ag tech speaker, Joy Crosby, Georgia Peanut Commission, co-executive directors Samantha Kilgore and VJ Mayer, and representing the Ag Media Council are John Mansavage, WD Horde and Sons Company, and Hillary Wynn, Meister Custom Solutions. We also want to thank Jeff Miller with the University of Arkansas for tapping his network of local talent and expertise. And also contributing were Lindsay Kennedy of Texas Tech University, Jennifer Latsky, Farm Progress, and Pam Caraway, Farm Progress. And keeping us all on track with lots of Excel sheets and budgets and a drive for managing timelines was Kelly Atkinson of ASG. And there are so many others to thank for making this all come together, but I want to extend a big thank you to each of you for your hard work. Please give these individuals a big round of applause. Additionally, an event of this caliber would not be possible without the support and generous donations of our many sponsors. This year, we received more than $100,000 in sponsorships, and I'd like to ask that if you are a sponsoring company in this room, please stand, or exhibiting company. These people here believe in you. They believe in the work that you and your organization do. They believe in the programming and the opportunity to connect and engage. So please take note and talk with them in the hallway and give them your thanks. Again, thank you to our exhibitors and sponsors. At this time, I would like to invite the Livestock Publications Council First Vice President, Jennifer Scheich, to the stage to say a few words about LPC.
Well, Well, good morning, everybody. It's so great to be here today, and I love seeing all of you guys in attendance. I'm pleased to be able to share with you just a little bit about the Livestock Publications Council. For those of you who may be new or first time here this week, LPC is an international organization that serves the dynamic livestock communications industry. Members of LPC represent livestock publications, allied industry, freelancers, and student members. LPC has so many exciting things coming up this fall, including a regional workshop that's going to take place at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana on September 25th. And we have an exciting surprise guest speaker that we're awaiting her final confirmation, but we really hope that you guys can join us at that event. We also hold monthly coffee and collaboration opportunities where we get together and talk about important topics in our industry. We have a new membership directory and much more. LPC is committed to representing professionals and students in the livestock communications industry. If you're interested in learning more about our organization, stop by the LPC booth in the Info Expo. Also, if you are free between 8 and 10 tonight, we encourage you to join us in the hotel bar area for our Monday night mingle between 8 and 10, where you can win prizes and get to know some of the other attendees here. It's really casual, lots of fun, and it's open to everybody. So at this time, I would like to invite ACN President Pam Caraway to the stage.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everyone today? We are absolutely delighted to have everybody here and to see all of these people who are devoted and passionate about communicating agriculture. So let's start off with what a friend of mine does every time he speaks. He gets everyone to clap periodically. So clap for yourselves. Thank you for being here. In a world where agriculture is shrinking, where the numbers of us are becoming fewer, I have discovered that what's left is the cream of the crop. And the people that we work with every day are some of the finest you're going to meet in these United States. I've said it before, outside of this room. I've told people outside of agriculture how fortunate we are to get to work in this industry. And today is one of those days when we celebrate what we do, and we celebrate each of you. So I hope all of you take something away from this conference that helps you to do your job better and to enjoy your job more, because that's what makes it worth doing. Today, we are talking and learning, and we've got some folks coming in to help us tell us about things to help us to do our job better. Tomorrow, we will be having our business meetings for ACN and LPC. This year, we are alternating the business and the awards part so people can attend both of the awards. If you've entered both of the awards programs, I call them the off-camera awards. They're in the morning. And then we will have the big awards: the Writer of the Year, Communicator of the Year, Designer of the Year, Workhouse, Legacy, Distinguished Service. All of that is at lunch. And I hope, even though we have worked to make sure that you can go to both award ceremonies, I hope some of you will also hang around for the business meeting, especially our ACN folks. We have some big things happening with ACN, and I would appreciate everyone that can give of their time and energy to help us to continue to improve our organization and to continue to do the things that best serve you. So now I would like to thank one of our sponsors, the United Soybean Board, and invite Robert Petter. I should have asked you when I was just talking to you, to the stage to speak to you a little bit about what United Soybean does. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, good morning. Thank you for being here today, and welcome to the 2025 Ag Media Summit. My name is Robert Petter, and I am a rice and soybean producer from the natural state right here in Arkansas. So I welcome you to Arkansas as well. Hope you get to get out and enjoy some of our natural beauty around the state. I'm also a director on the United Soybean Board. And the United Soybean Board is comprised of 77 board members, volunteer board members from around the country. And the United Soybean Board is funded by the checkoff dollars that the soybean growers of the U.S. have paid into the checkoff. And our goal, the director's goal for the year, is to invest the best of our ability to get the most return of investment to the grower, to the farmer. So we invest in research, education, marketing, innovative ideas, all surrounded around the question of, is this sustainable? It's what we do, it's what our customers are asking for, it's what our country, our supply needs, but it's also what we, the farmers, want to do. It's our farmland, and we're very proud and passionate about it, and we want to do the right thing for our soil. So we work really hard to do that. As a sponsor here today, and myself, I want to thank you for what you do, the hard work of telling the agricultural story. The journalists and the broadcasters that are here today, and some of your colleagues around the country, thank you for what you do. I know it's not an easy job. I believe we have a great story to tell, and I believe its timing is really critical right now. We have a lot of people that are either really interested in where their food comes from, and they want to know more about it, or there's such a disconnect that they have no idea where their food comes from. So I really think it's a great time to strike, to tell the story, to tell agriculture. I believe we have a good story, and we just need to get it to those people who have not heard our story before, and that's where we need you, and we thank you for that. I will be here later as part of a panel. Hopefully it is just an open discussion to create ideas, thoughts, and questions for later today and tomorrow in your conference. So again, thank you for being here. Hopefully we can visit somewhere along the way. But again, thank you.
Thank you, Robert. We appreciate all of the work that the United Soybean Board does. I think probably everybody in here has done a story or two on the research work that they have done for our farmers to help them be more successful. Today, I have the absolute honor to introduce a writer that is a bit of a hero to me. And they say, you know, don't meet your heroes, right? Because you'll be disappointed. And we were just talking about some of the folks, his heroes that he's met at the Grand Ole Opry, and he was a little disappointed. He probably didn't want me to tell you that. But Sean Dietrich is known as Sean of the South in his columns. He writes some incredible work. And I read an article not long ago that says that our superpower is bringing that humanity to the stories. And he brings that humanity, and what we are focused on today and tomorrow at this conference is how we bring the humanity to the stories that we tell, and we do that in an age of AI. Our superpower is being able to tell somebody's story in a way that touches somebody else. AI simply can't do that. We're going to use AI for efficiency. We're going to use people like Sean Dietrich to teach us how to touch people in ways that no computer ever will be able to do. And so Sean is a columnist, humorist, multi-instrumentalist, and stand-up storyteller known for his commentary on life in the American South. His work has appeared in Newsweek, Southern Living, Reader's Digest, Garden and Gun. Who else is like Garden and Gun fans? Like one of my favorite magazines ever. And his column appears weekly in newspapers throughout the U.S. He has authored 18 books and over 4,000 columns. He makes appearances on the Grand Ole Opry. His work has been featured on the Today Show. And here's the part where they want me to tell you he's a really nice guy. I would, but you know. He's one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. And I have a lot of questions for him. You're going to be able to ask more questions of him when he speaks at 11 o'clock is his session. We're going to have just a writer's workshop where we're going to sit down and ask him all kinds of questions. And the first one I have to ask him is, how the heck do you do this every day? So please welcome Sean of the South. He plays a little bit of fiddle too.
Check. Yes? I figure you can't come to Arkansas without playing a little fiddle. Hold on one second. I can't play very well with my jacket on, but then again, I can't play very well, period, so. This is a song that my granddaddy taught me when I was a little boy. This is actually my granddaddy's fiddle, 1899, which is quite a good price for a fiddle, I think. No, he gave this fiddle to me actually when he was dying, when he was passing away. He charged me $20 for it. He picked this fiddle up, in truth, over after World War II. And after World War II, he got shot in the armpit from pointing this way and leading a charge as a captain. And the bullet bit him right in the armpit. And he was in R&R for a long time, and they thought maybe he wouldn't be able to use this arm anymore. And so he picked this fiddle up, and he began to use his bow arm to try to be his R&R. And he got a lot better. My grandmother said that his fiddling suffered greatly, but she said he's all I got. My granddaddy was a farmer, and he told a lot of stories. And the story behind this song is it's an Arkansas song. It took place in 1862 when there was a census being taken throughout the state of Arkansas. And the census taker was riding along on his horse, and he was one day in the rural wilds of Arkansas, and he saw this man inside a little tiny cabin playing the fiddle. Now, it was a rainstorm, raining something fierce. Rain was pouring down. But the little man playing his fiddle was not inside his cabin because that fiddle, the cabin was just leaking, and it was just a flood everywhere. The man was sitting in his doorway as he was playing the fiddle to stay dry. And this is the song that the census taker wrote in 1862.
Well, once upon a time in Arkansas, an old man sat at his little cabin door and fiddled at a tune that he liked to hear, a jolly old tune that he played by ear. It was raining hard, but the fiddler didn't care. He sawed away at the popular air, though his rooftop leaked like a waterfall. It didn't seem to bother the man at all. A traveler was riding by that day. He stopped and saw him fiddling away. His cabin was afloat, his feet were wet, but still the old man didn't seem to fret. So the stranger said, "Now the way it seems to me, you better mend your roof," said he. But the old man said as he played away, "I couldn't mend it now, it's a rainy day." The traveler replied, "That's all quite true, but this, I think, is a thing for you to do. Get busy on a day that's warm and bright, and patch the old roof till she's good and tight." But the old man kept playing it as real, tapped the ground with his leathery heel. "Get along," says he, "for you give me a pain. My cabin never leaks when it does not rain." Thank you very much. You all need to raise your standards in music and entertainment, but I appreciate that very much. This next tune I wrote is an autobiographical tune, and I'm just going to play it for you here. I've been writing stories ever since I was a little bitty boy, and the two things I really wanted to do in life was either play music or write, and this is a story about that. Now when I was a boy, no bigger than a Dixie cup, I remember my mom and dad said, "Son, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Well, that was many years ago, but I remember that solemn oath. I said, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a writer." She says, "Son, you can't do both." She said, "Son, you gotta grow up, get serious with your life. Get a job, get a house, and settle down, take a wife. This life is way too short to always be a pup. One of these days you'll have to buckle down and grow up." Now Granddaddy played the fiddle late one afternoon. He looked at me and he said, "Boy, when you grow up, what do you want to do?" Well, I looked that old man in the eye and I felt so inspired. I said, "Granddaddy, when I grow up, I want to be retired." He said, "Son, you gotta grow up, get serious with your life. Get a job, get a house, settle down, take a wife. This life is way too short to always be a pup. One of these days you'll have to buckle down and grow up." Now yesterday I was on the porch in a most nostalgic mood when up come the neighbor boy, a curious little dude. I looked at that kid and I said, tell me, when you grow up, what do you want to be, son? He said, I want to be a banker or a lawyer or a gynecological obstetrician. I said, son, don't ever grow up. Don't be so serious with your life. Love your job and love your family and love your little wife. This life is way too short to grow up like I did. Take it from me, it's always best to buckle down and be a kid.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Her introduction was extremely nice, and I really appreciated her saying all those kind of things. It could have been one of the nicest introductions I've ever had, possibly in my whole life. Just recently, I was doing a keynote speaking engagement thing for many important people who were dignitaries, and there was 2 state governors there, the governor of Tennessee, the governor of Alabama, and I was in the back getting ready to go on stage. And as I was preparing to go on stage, the lady who was fixing to introduce me, she was the assistant to one of the assistants to the assistant to the assistant governor. And she was going to introduce me. And I said, what's wrong? Because I noticed as she was standing over there in the corner, she was going like this and shaking something fierce. And I said, are you okay? She said, yeah, I've just never spoken before so many people before and important dignitaries, and I'm really nervous. And I said, well, just calm down. You're making me nervous too. I said, what are you holding there? She was holding a little note card, and it had my little biography on it. It says, Sean Dietrich, noted columnist, novelist. Heck, I wrote it. And I said, just follow the card. Everything will be all right. Well, sure enough, she walked out there. She was rehearsing what she was going to say. She got out there onto the stage. She stood up in front of everybody, trembling so bad, I thought I was going to see a puddle foot. And as she began to open up, the whole crowd was right there with her. And she said, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sean Dietrich, noted communist, only they didn't react the way you just did. It sounded like when I took the stage, like I was standing in front of the National Federal Cricket Reserve. And I got out there in front of everybody, and I looked all them people in the eye at once, and I said, oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed His grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. They never asked me back after that. I've been writing for a long time, and I knew when I was a child that I wanted to write. Writing was extremely important to me. I don't really know why. I can't explain it, but it all started when my mother got me a Terra 32 typewriter manufactured by the Olivetti Corporation. It was seafoam green, ugly as sin, had a crooked space bar, and it was missing the letter S. My mama got it at the thrift store. It's really hard to write sentences without the letter S. But I wrote on that thing. I wrote stories all the time. And I had a little Indian notebook tablet that I had at school, and I wrote with a number 2 pencil. Although I don't like number 2 pencils, I'll be honest. I like number 1 pencils better. And I think there's a lot of people out there who can identify with that. The number 2 pencil has a nasty, grit of graphite that does not caress the paper the way a number one pencil. This country would be in a lot better shape if we had more number one pencils. I would write all sorts of stories, and in 5th grade, this desire in me to write began to just blossom into something brand new. I come from country people, from rural people. We were very staunch, strict Southern Baptists. We were the kind of people who did not believe in purchasing life insurance because it was considered a form of gambling. I'll let the people in back have a chance to work on that one. We were tight people, really, really tight people, staunch. My mother did not believe in keeping NyQuil in the medicine cabinet because she referred to it as Baptist preacher's scotch. We were the kind of people who did not believe in premarital relations with the opposite sex because this could lead to dancing. Very, very tight people. But my one outlet was writing. Writing was important to me. I'm not sure why. In 5th grade, I had this teacher. She was a preacher's wife, a Church of God preacher's wife. She had tall beehive hair that had not been let down since Jimmy Carter was in office. She dressed like a church lady. She had cat-eye glasses that were horn-rimmed with precious gems embedded in the stems. Long dress that brushed the floor. She walked, it only hovered about an inch above the floor, so that when she walked, you could not see her feet. It looked like she was floating, like an angel of mercy, or perhaps an angel of death. And she would grip the lectern when she'd give us her lessons, and she'd tell it like she was preaching. She'd say, I want everybody in this place to know. And she'd talk about God. We were the only 5th grade class in the whole county that had an altar call. Well, one day, at school, she said, what does everybody want to be when they grow up? I want everybody to think about what you want to be when you grow up. And we thought real hard about it. My buddy Adam, in the chair next to me, raised his hand. He said, I would like to be... She looked at him. She said, really? Well, people in hell want a glass of ice water. Sit down and think of something more practical that you can be. And my hand was already up, and I thought, oh no, and I put it down. She said, no, I saw your hand. Tell me, what would you like to be? I said, well, I would like to be a writer. She said, writer? Really? Well, do you write? Is this working? Does it keep going off? Yeah. I said, yes, ma'am, I do. I do write. She said, let's see what you got. So I took my Indian Chief tablet out from my desk, and I walked it up to her at the end of class. Check one. Can you hear me any better? All right. Remember anything I said? I got my Indian Chief tablet out. I walked it to her. It had all my stories in it. All these little stories written in number one pencil. And I also did my own illustrations. And these stories that I wrote, they were about the Old West. They were about swashbuckling heroes swinging from the ships of square-rigged sail ships, pirates. They were tales about scandalous women barely wearing any clothing. Those are my favorite illustrations to do. And I didn't think about this as I walked this book up to her. I walked this book up to her, and No? Yes? Maybe if I stand still and not move. I handed this book to this God lady, and she looked at it. She opened it up. She said, wow, this is really interesting. I've never seen someone use so many commas in all my life. Well, now the comma is an interesting device. It's an interesting device that comes to us from Gregorian chant a long, long time ago. It was used in musical notation, the earliest form of human music notation. The comma signifies a breath. when the Gregorian chants would read this little comma, they'd take a big breath. And I told her this. I said, breathing oxygenates the brain. Oxygen improves cognition and understanding. You can understand and love a story better if you breathe deeply. She didn't buy my story. She flipped the page again. She said, my God, I've never seen anybody use as many adverbs in all my life. Every other word is suddenly. I said, well, people are walking into the Last Chance Saloon, and they got guns in their hands, and this is the last time in the world they're going to be alive. Nobody in the Old West gets shot patently. I explained this to her. She flipped the page, and there on the other page was a picture of my favorite character, Barbarella, who was barely wearing any clothes. She was riding bareback on a horse, and she was very chilly. She shut that book and she threw it in the trash. She said, you know what I think? And I will never forget these words. I've told this story all over the nation, and I'll never forget these words. She said, I think you have a promising career in construction work. Well, I came from a blue-collar family. My daddy's family were farmers. My mother's family were farmers. And then my father's and mother's generation, they were blue-collar workers. My daddy was an iron worker every day of his life. Mother worked in healthcare. She was a respiratory therapist. My daddy swung from big old iron beams, welding stick welding, column splices. And he wore denim every single day to work. And I listened to her words, and I listened to what she was saying to me, and maybe even the derogatory nature of how she put it. And I gave up that year in 5th grade. I decided I was going to quit trying. So I did. I quit trying. And at the end of the 5th grade year, after I had just slacked off the entire year, I had no drive. She came to me and she said, I want you to see me at my desk after this day, last day of school. I said, okay. Came up to her desk afterwards. She said, this breaks my heart to tell you, but you have failed the 5th grade. Her heart didn't look very broken. And I thought back to myself, that idea that I had of giving up trying might not have worked out when she said the words, you will have to repeat this grade and I will be your teacher again for another year. Well, I went out and I sat on the curb and I waited for my mother to come pick me up from school. She drove a Blazer. It was covered in mud. And I sat there, and there was a janitor who came and he sat next to me. His name was Pete. Pete was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck 3 times. It cut off his oxygen supply. And so he spoke differently. He thought differently. It was a big deal for him to have a job as a school janitor. He carried a big old ring of keys on his belt that had all these keys to every door at the school. And he did all sorts of magic tricks for all the kids. He would make sponge balls disappear in his hand. He could make change appear out of your ear. He would pull handkerchiefs out of his pants. The principal asked him not to do that anymore. He was a good man. All the kids loved him. He sat down next to me. And he said, what's wrong with you? I said, I've had a bad day. He said, what happened? I said, Pete, I failed the 5th grade. You're looking at a stupid kid right here. He said, no. You're not stupid. I said, yes, I am. I said, what kind of a fool fails the 5th grade? He said, I want to tell you something. He said, when I was a kid, all I ever wanted to do was help my daddy work on the car. I would go out with my daddy when he'd work on the car, he'd get underneath the hood, and my brother would be out there, and my daddy would let my brother help, but he'd never help. He said, I was stupid. He said, I would just sit there and I'd watch them work underneath the car. He said, and then they'd drive all up and down the neighborhood, and I just felt so bad. He said, but look at me. Look at me now. I'm a grown man. I've got a ring of keys on my belt to every door in that campus. Do you have a key to every door on this campus? I said, no. He said, and guess what? I got my own apartment. I pay the rent.
I have fresh, hot food every night that I make myself, comes straight out of a can. And look out there in that parking lot. You see that car? That is an El Camino, half truck, half car, better than both. That's debatable. He said, and I change the oil in that thing every day. That's a little often, Pete, to change your oil. He said, I take good care of that thing. That is my pride and joy. Now I ask you, am I stupid? I said, no. I listened to his story. That story. That word would come up a lot in my life, story. And as he began to ease down his story, he was pretty long-winded, the blazer came rolling up as my mother. And I knew I was going to have to tell my mother that I failed the 5th grade. I got in the blazer, and we were driving along, and I just thought to myself, I'm going to do this kind of with the same approach that you would use to rip duct tape off of a sensitive region of your body. Just pull it right off. No matter what you do, you're going to get some hair. So I just whoosh. I said, Mama, I failed the 5th grade. She hit the brakes so hard that I came slamming toward the windshield. And back in those days, we didn't wear seatbelts. We didn't have no seatbelts but Mama's right arm. And I was almost in the dashboard. And my mother looked at me and said, what happened? I said, I failed the 5th grade. She said, that godless preacher's wife. And I knew I was saved. The very next thing that happened, my mother took me across county lines to another school district. She asked the principal of that school to give me an entrance exam to see if I could make it to the 6th grade. She was a little hesitant about it. They drove me across to the county lines. My mother and I had been working all day on what I was going to say when I was interviewed by this school staff. And I had been rehearsing it really well. Rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing. Is that for me, Pam? Is that for me?
Yeah, I was busy looking at everybody listening to you. I didn't want to interrupt you, Sean.
That's all right. Check. Again, this is my 3rd mic change. This is a new record. So the school staff was sitting in this big old room, felt about the size of this room. And my mother and I walked across the parking lot. My hair was matted to my head with my mother's own spit. My pants were pressed sharp enough to cut tomatoes. I had a little sport coat on. I was a chubby boy. Red hair. My mother purchased my clothes from Sears because if you were a chubby boy back in the day, you could not fit into traditional Levi's. Your mama had to go to Sears. And there was a brand of clothes for little chubby, fluffy boys. Maybe you know what that brand was called. It was called I'm Among Friends. I walked into that school. We sat down. And the 6th grade teacher looked at me. Her name's Miss Dirksen. She said, why should I let you into the 6th grade? You failed the 5th grade. And I said what I'd been rehearsing all day. I said it was a personality conflict. She said, okay, I'll buy that. But there must have been a moment in the year when you quit trying because you're a smart kid. I said, there was. She said, well, what was it? I said, well, I told her one time that I wanted to be a writer. And she said that that probably wouldn't work out for me. She said, a writer at your age. Interesting. Do you write? I said, yes. She said, do you have any samples of your writing? I said, yes, ma'am, I do. My mother had brought one of my notebooks. My mother had never actually looked in the notebook, but she brought it. And she handed it to the lady. The lady opened it up. She said, wow, your comma usage is prodigious. I said, every other word, suddenly. You are a very suddenistic kind of boy, aren't you? And then she flipped the page and she saw Tiffany. I spent a lot of time working on Tiffany. She closed the book. She said, this is really interesting. I'm really impressed with you. You know, I think you might really be a writer. I said, really? She said, yes, I think you might be a writer. I'll make you a deal. I'll let you into 6th grade
if you will write for me every day, a little bit before class, every day, 100 words on a sheet of lined notebook paper, and then I'll cut the notebook paper in half. I will grade it. I will spray the red ink on it, misspellings, bad grammar, all that, and then I will tack it up to a little cork board on the wall so everybody can see it, because that's a big part of being a writer, is to let other people see your work. You do that every day for me. I said, well, what can I write about? She said, anything you want, but no illustrations. And so that's what I did. I was driven across county lines all the year for 6th grade. And I wrote a story for about 30 minutes before class. Anything I wanted to. I could write about Superman. I could write about someone I met. I had to think about what to write. And then I would give it to her, and she would just grade it mercilessly. And she'd paste it on that board. And people come by and they'd read it. And it's funny, because at the end of the school year, all of these stories on my own personal board were right there. And the ones from the beginning of the year were just covered in red ink. But the ones toward the end of the year had less red ink on them. And at the end of the year, she collected all my stories. And she gave them to me in a shoebox. She said, you're a writer now. She said, don't ever not tell your story wherever you go. Amazing. Well, I needed it that year. That was a bolster to my confidence. Because the very next year, my daddy committed suicide. I was 7th grade. My dad was a troubled person. And when he passed, everything quit for me. I decided to drop out of school at that age, and my people were not quite as heavy on education as they needed to be. And so it wasn't a big deal. I dropped out of school. I just quit going. I was blackballed by my friends anyway. I didn't want to go back. I got my first job hanging drywall at age 14. And I worked in a crew that was mostly Mexicans, and I learned every Mexican swear word there is. And they have infinitely more swear words than we do in English. We have maybe 7 in English. They've got 700. It's amazing. All sorts of unspeakable acts can be commented on in the Spanish language. And I would show up and I'd mud the joints and I'd zip drywall to the wall. And this kind of became my life. My next job was laying tile. I enjoyed that. Another job I had was working as a commercial roofer. I was an electrician's assistant for a little while. Trim carpentry. I hung gutter. This was what I did. Well, after I got married, I was on the job one day. I was kneeling down, laying tile with a guy named Donald. Never forget Donald. Donald had big old ears and he was real skinny. Wore tight jeans and a big old belt buckle that looked like a serving platter. And we were laying tile and he said, you want to know something? I'm a doctor. And I looked at him and I waited for the punchline. He said, no, I'm a doctor. I said, if you're a doctor, I'm a nurse. He said, no, I'm not an MD, I'm a PhD. And something came to my mind while we were working here, because I told him about my life. He said, I want you to know that it's not that hard to go back to school. It's not that hard to be a doctor, actually. You listen to what the teacher tells you, you vomit it back to her in essay form, and that's it. I said, really? He said, yeah, I would not be intimidated to go back to school if I were you. I just listened to him. He was telling me his own story. Well, that day, I left work. I drove all the way across our bridge to our little community college, which was located in several double-wide trailers. I walked into the double-wide trailers, and I got up to that admissions desk, and I said, ma'am, I would like to go to college. I wish I'd have thought of something more dramatic to say. She said, well, you're in the right place. Where are your high school transcripts? I said, well, I don't have any of those. She said, oh, well, that's okay. Will you have your GED? I said, no, ma'am, I don't. She said, well, okay, then I guess I'm here to tell you that you're screwed. And as I began to walk away, I was really disappointed. There was a lady who came out of the back. She had tall beehive hairdo. She said, there's a way he can go to college. The lady said, what? She said, yes, we got this test that we give to those homeschoolers, all those weirdos out in the country. We have to prove that they've been to school. It's a test, and you can clip out of all sorts of things if you're smart enough, but I will warn you, it's a hard test. A hard test. You don't want to just take it without practicing for it. Because I come from a long line of very foolish men, I said, ma'am, I'll take that test now. Well, they walked me over to a double-wide trailer on the other side of campus, private and quiet. They gave me a big old stack of paper with multiple choice questions on it that was about the size of War and Peace. And they gave me 2 number 2 pencils. I had 3 hours. The woman looked at me and said, may God have mercy on your soul. 3 hours began to tick by, and I filled in the bubbles on that multiple choice test. And I thought of what my cousin Ed Lee had said long ago. Cousin Ed Lee said, if ever you're taking a multiple choice test and you get confused, you don't know what to fill in the bubble C, and you have a 90% chance of getting a 90% grade. Never mind that Ed Lee repeated the 4th grade 3 times. I filled in the bubble C. When it was done, I walked my pamphlet to the woman. She took this pamphlet and she fed it into this large computer. It rolled it through. It looked like the Starship Enterprise. And when it was done, the blinking lights, everything spit out this little receipt that you had to have a nuclear science degree to read. She put on her reading glasses and she said, congratulations, son. You're in college. My life totally, what?
This is probably a good stopping point.
This is what?
A good stopping point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What time am I at?
You're at 40 minutes. We used up all the time for questions.
Well, you want to hear how it turned out?
I think everybody does. I was looking at everybody, but I think Julie's going to kill me. Okay.
They're not going to ask me back here either. On the day that I graduated was a stage a lot like this, made out of plywood, in a cafeteria of a very small community college. The woman who had taught me English 1, English 2, English 3, major literature. She was a little small woman named Miss Fish. She gave me words that have been my guiding force throughout my whole life. As I walked across to receive my degree, I felt like I was receiving my doctorate. She said to me, don't ever be afraid to tell your story. Don't ever be afraid to tell your story. And the second bit of advice she gave me was this: write exactly how you talk, and people will connect with you. Everybody, thank you very much for having me. It's been a wonderful privilege.
Thank you so much, Sean. And now you know why, if Sean Dietrich is one of your heroes, as he is mine, it was dang good to meet him last night. He will be speaking again, and all of you have an opportunity to meet him at 11 o'clock. You can find out the rest of that story and all the details of that story if you read his book, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? I highly recommend it. Of his 18 books, that's the one I've read. I'm going to work on the rest of them. Steve's read a different one they talked about last night. And thank you all, and especially thank you to Sean.